The best lawyers aren't found in the big law firms. They're found in the stories of those who left. Alrighty. So, Ryan from Parachute, tell me, are you trying to replace lawyers with AI?
Mate, good question, and thanks for having me on your show. No, what we're trying to do is to give lawyers a lift away from the stuff that they need to be spending most of their time doing. So where we're seeing AI leading to is removing the need to do, the heavy lifting for about 80% of the workflow for a large proportion of the type of workflows that lawyers perform in an SME context. That might be initial drafting of advice, initial delivery of a deliverable. You can run that through legal trained AI, Australian kind of data sovereignty principles, all intact to ensure that you're not having to spend the majority of the time doing stuff that's relatively table stakes now. That's what Parachute is doing at its most kind of upper tier. And then subsequent to that, it's then enabling lawyers to spend more time on the things which are going to make them far more valuable to their clients, which is relationships, understand the commercial context of their clients, the other realities of their clients. You know, they may be going through a health ailment, and you now know that because you can spend more time on one-on-ones with your clients as opposed to just receiving instructions and performing work, which any law firm can do. So the intention is move them away from the burdens of running a law firm, spend more time developing relationships and soft skills, and let Parachute do the majority of the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely aligned with, my view of law. So take me back to, I guess, when did you become a lawyer and what was your pathway to ending up now?
Yeah. I graduated in 2012. And at the time I was the first few hires in a boutique law firm in Sydney, which has developed a reputation of being a class action type firm, a lot of dispute heavy work. They've just merged with another firm recently. They were initially called Mitri Lawyers. And I think they're called Mitri Emerson Lewis, so MEL. And it was a great time because that's when I was put up in front of courts, when I think the rules are a little bit more relaxed in relation to asking for leave as a not admitted solicitor to appear before the court. That was wonderful training. Then I went to Big Law. So that was at Blake Dawson at the time, became Ashurst, and earned some stripes there. And that was a wonderful experience in terms of, disputes work, but also heavily commercial work. That was mostly insolvency, restructuring, and turnaround. Then from that, it was unexpected, but it was a huge kind of insight into how things are done differently. I was recruited to lead a legal function in Israel. And that was in-house, my first kind of in-house experience, where that was about 2.5 years where I was leading a team of Canadian, Australian, and Kiwi lawyers to basically manage the internal legal needs of this organization. But this organization had a lot of inbounds internationally. So dealing with matters in countries I've never heard of, like Burkina Faso or Belgium. I've obviously heard of Belgium, but just the range was incredible. But also then in-house litigation and issues within Israel itself. So a lot of land disputes and construction issues and what we had to deal with, and data sovereignty as well. Then I came back to Australia, went to private equity-backed healthcare, 3 years. Then from that went to Eucalyptus, which is VC-backed healthcare. And Eucalyptus has done incredibly well with a recent announcement, making it Australia's latest unicorn, kind of built their legal function. And then I started Z Law, which is a small law firm. Which fluctuated between 30 lawyers down to 6, which is a sweet spot. Now it's down to 3, and it's relying on AI to generate that efficiency. And then I raised, we closed the round for Parachute in December last year, so 2025, and now we're selling into law firms solutions that helped Z get its edge. That was a long-winded way of saying the background.
Amazing. Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm trying to figure out which train of thought to follow because there's so many I'd like to explore. We'll end up having to do a Joe Rogan style 2 hours find out about. So across all those, was the purpose with Parachute, when you started Z Law, okay, I want to build something that I'm going to be able to sell, or was it just you were trying to solve your own problem and eventually this would help a lot of people?
That's a great question. It was solving our own problem first. So it's like, okay, Zlaw had been a side hustle whilst I was at Eucalyptus and prior. And then when I went full time in Zlaw, like this was the onset of AI, right? It was early 2024. It was only like probably 9 months prior that even ChatGPT had really taken up some consumer foothold. And the question for us was, okay, how do we solve this this demand issue? There's a lot of demand for a service that we're offering, which is contrarian law firm and disruptive, and also being critical of the pace by which we innovate in the legal industry. That worked really well for Zed as a brand, but then we had a lot of work that we couldn't kind of service. And so our initial reaction was the one that I think most people would have initially made, which was hire more. And so we just built this big fractional network, and it ended up being around 35 lawyers in different areas where I would route through work, and basically they would do it as a, Zlaw became the brand, but these guys were expertise in their certain areas, and I would surround myself with lawyers that could do things better than I could. The issue with that was quality control, culture, especially in decentralized setup. And it wasn't like the margins were low, right? And so then as AI took a stronger foothold, we were extremely early adopters. And so much so that we wasted a lot of time, made a lot of mistakes with innovation and strategy. We went from a suite of tools to another suite of tools. We engaged AI, so-called experts. What I realized at that point in time is there's no such thing as AI real expert. And so we made a lot of wastage. Long story short is learned at an accelerated rate, realized that a sweet spot can be a lean firm, but with a really strategic tech stack. And now the world's seeing that today with all this investment occurring with full stack law firms out of the US, with Y Combinator and the like, or Sequoia. But in Australia, it's still very much the dust is still kind of settling. We haven't really seen that, and I think Zed is probably the best example of that today. So we sold it for ourselves, and then we realized, wait a second, other law firms should benefit from what we've kind of learned, and we're putting that into a package, which is now evolved into Parachute.
Yeah, and so it's built by lawyers actually knowing, like, hands-on how the day-to-day, like the operations of running a law firm works. And so you've scaled back. So has scaling back, like for you as the business owner, did you ever want to have like 35 people under you? And because my opinion of where the future's going is with AI, one entrepreneur can effectively, a one-man company equivalent of, or one woman, can tackle a problem head on with an army of AI and solve it for effectively a global audience. Is that when you started Zlaw? Was that the thought, or have you just literally, when a problem comes to you, do you just go, what's the next best, the highest leverage solution I can apply to this problem?
Yeah, I think it was like when you're running a business like Zed, when I first started this full time, and okay, now I don't have the security of a PayYG income coming in. You need to make enough through it. When you're running a law firm, you need to generate enough revenue to meet your expenses. Unless you have a big runway or you have like a debt facility, which I didn't have either, then you really need to focus on sales and doing the work. And that means that a lot of your strategic thinking is quite reactive. And so, in answer to the question of did I think? No, it was very much just making sure my fingers on the pulse. I'm in the right rooms, or I'm reading the right forums, or late at night, I'm like ingesting content which might be from overseas, because they're a little bit more advanced than we are here in Australia. At least they were 2 years ago, about where Zlaw should migrate itself to. And I think that constant preoccupation outside of doing the client deliverables meant that we could innovate and iterate pretty quickly. And so that then evolved into like, okay, cool. Well, how can we make sure that 60%, even if it's 50%, then 70%, now 80% of the legal work that comes through to Zlaw is performed by what you alluded to, agents, workflow processes, automation. And then the lawyers that we have then make sure that they review, rubber stamp, and verify before it goes back to the client. How do we do that? It sounds like everyone's kind of talking about that now, like 80-20. And like Google came up with that. But Zlaw's done it very effectively, very, very quickly. So it's allowed it to generate revenue, which is probably double what other law firms of that size are generating.
Yep. Remarkable. And so, yeah, well, the 80-20, it's a Pareto principle, and it shows up the more you learn about it, the more you realize far out this thing shows up everywhere in business and everywhere in life. It's an amazing sort of thing. So to get into a bit technical, what would be the major difference between, let's go like a Claude or actually using Parachute for a lawyer?
Good question. Well, before I answer that, Parachute is using them different models, right? So we are obviously powered by Anthropic's models, by Gemini's models, Google Gemini, and by OpenAI. And we play around with other models as well, but those are the three dominant models that we play around with.
Yep.
So what you can do is obviously go off the shelf to use Anthropic Claude, and we encourage people to do so. Like, you can really experiment and create some brilliant workflows and some processes and projects all through using Claude and outputs. The major distinction between using off-the-shelf LLM and a platform like Parachute is that we've done the hard work already to make sure that the outputs are going to be verifiable through a trusted layer of sources, which are things like federal, registers of legislation, case law, verifiable mechanisms by which you can click on output to ensure that case law is indeed citable, and insights on whether or not there's been discussions around Orbiter or around judicial reasoning, which wouldn't come out of a Claude output. And in the end, we're powered by all those models, but we just added another layer, which is like an internal RAG, to ensure that the lawyer is getting something more robust. Then the secondary piece on top of that is when a lawyer onboards or a law firm onboards Parachute, they personalize it to their own ecosystem. Very similar to what you do with instructions at the back end for Claude, but there's obviously infrastructure and engineering that goes behind making sure that it's far more performative than off-the-shelf AI. But in saying that, if a law firm wants to go hard on engineering, technical infrastructure, making sure that things are up to date, they can do so. But I think that the actual investment and time and cost ends up being more effective using Parachute, particularly because of its global ecosystem beyond just doing the drafting and doing the advice. For example, note-taking to actions, note-taking to deliverables, things like collaboration, which you can't do as organically within off-the-shelf LLMs, things like the mechanism within Microsoft Word, contract formatting, all those sort of things as a package is far more enabling than just using AI tools off the shelf.
Yeah. Oh, and speed of execution at the moment, like anything, I think Hormozy talks about it all the time. Speed is the one thing humans, for thousands of years, they pay for something to have it done faster. And the fact is, if someone starts building it, that's where I go to anyone. Look, if you're going to try and do it yourself, one, you're limited to just your intellect, whereas someone who's been building this 9 months, like, it's pre-built, it's ready to go, and then you can still put your flavor on it, which is what excites me. Is that keeps the market, it's still a free market then, because it's not like, if everyone has access to the tools, how you prompt it, how you input it, how you build the workflows is still going to be your thing. And so you guys don't, it's not like if law firms sign up and then they're training it and suddenly law firm down the road is going to know Lofty's little secret way of doing things, or blah, blah, blah. It's their own little infrastructure sort of thing.
It's sandboxed, and we wouldn't be able to sell it to law firms if it were to do that. So you can even see when you use Parachute, if a law firm principal, of which there are a few, have more than one ecosystem, i.e. they might have multiple businesses, or like 3 or 4 law firms, of which there are a principal for each, they can literally flip between those different profiles, and the information from one profile won't contaminate the information in another. That's by design. So then, again, that's another thing you can't do that well with Claude. With Claude, you can't have like 5 different instances. You'd probably need to have 5 different machines or 5 different Chrome tabs. Then you don't get the benefit of Claude Desktop and a bunch of other benefits that you normally receive. The other thing is, I completely resonate with what you said about Hormozy, but effectively, we are ensuring that the energy to invest, create, architect, and deploy Parachute is a net multiple on returns as compared to doing it yourself with another platform or a multimodal, or like a multimodal model. And even on a cost basis, if you were to get the 3 top tier LLM models and then pay for them yourself, you're probably paying less to Parachute than you are for those 3.
Yep.
So we're just being very mindful of that. I understand the commercial realities. Also, every 2 weeks something changes in AI. But we want to make sure we're on top of that and make sure that we're always offering a value add.
Yeah. Oh, no, it makes complete sense to me because I go, you want to be like the way I teach lawyers with the business development is I want them to have a niche monopoly. So what I say is I want you to be a heavyweight boxer. And when you go up against law firm down the road or big firm, it's like a heavyweight versus a lightweight. And because of your experience, your niche, I'm the lawyer who's, my funny example is I just do employment law for blue-haired hairdressers. And I go, if you picked that niche, I don't know if there's enough in Australia to have enough of a business. But if that's what you said to the market, guaranteed every blue-haired hairdresser is going to come to you because like you know them better than anyone. You're an expert better than anyone. And trying to keep up with the level of AI coding, engineering, or even just, I think there is still a level of you need a bit of coding experience to be able to get the most out of a Claude or any of these bigger ones. So it's just shortening that gap to go, we've already trained it, already learned it. Yeah.
Completely agree. Like we have 4 Australian engineers building Parachute. They aren't just sitting back and, wrapping another LLM. They're building infrastructure. Their backgrounds from a security ecosystem. They've all come from a company which builds security infrastructure for developers. And so when you bundle all that engineering and that legal know-how talent together, then you get a platform which is custom made for our industry as opposed to something which is off the shelf.
Yeah. And so with because you had a bit of, you had a background in big law, are you seeing, because you'd have plenty of connections there, the uptake of AI in big law? Because I interview roughly 70 lawyers a month, all senior, all thinking about self-employment. And the ones who are coming out of big law, it's interesting, it's not being up, the use of AI in these firms isn't that fast. And I'm excited. I've made no qualms. I hope small firms can be the giant slayer of big law. I'm not sure it ever will because institutional clients need institutional level things. But are you seeing more uptake in the smaller boutiques or more uptake in the mid to bigger firms?
Such an interesting question. And the answer to that has changed, obviously, as we've only been in market for 6 months. But what we initially designed Parachute for was the small to medium law firm, and we went to pre-seed on a 1 to 25 FTE count in a law firm, right? And that still constitutes around 20,000 law firms in Australia. But what we're finding now is that the dominant legal AI solution providers, either from Silicon Valley or from Europe, and they are targeting big law and enterprise. And these the forgotten middle, which is anywhere from 25 to 50 to even 75 or 100 lawyers, the price that they're being quoted for certain AI packages mean that your ROI needs to be far more kind of compelling and measurable in order to make that use case acceptable for the team to buy into. What we've found is a lot of the mid-tiers are finding that they want access to something which is deployable throughout the firm. They know that there's going to be spotty adoption, like not everyone's going to adopt. From the experiences that they're getting from, people talk from big law, for example. You might have a massive Lagora and a Harvey license, but only some people are using it. Some people are only using some parts of it. And some people are saying that I don't use the playbooks because there's too much finicky stuff anyway. And all I do is just generate an output and then format it. So it's super interesting to get this sort of these data points because what we're finding is we've built a product in which the things which are like the product parity, right, with these amazing platforms, but the things which are not being heavily deployed and used by lawyers, we're not even bother building for. We'll just build something which is far easier for an SME law firm to work with. For example, like you might ask the prompt itself does have a correlation to how good the output is. Instead of doing a massive 200 field prompt library, have a prompt improver. Click a single button, it'll improve your prompt, make it substantive, could be a few paragraphs, right, to review a contract. But now you've got a really good prompt that you would have given to a paralegal or a junior, AI does the work, and then you review. And so we're finding there's a lot of uptake in this middle, the M of the SME, more so than we expected.
Yeah. Well, and because our market for sell is self-employed, the solos, the boutiques, the smaller ones, which for your knowledge in Australia, it's talk about an 80-20. Nearly 79% are less than 3 lawyers. Law firms.
And that's huge. Exactly. Yeah. Like we've got a few solo practitioners using Parachute, and they have it's been so refreshing to hear what they've said. One of them just spoke at the Melbourne launch 2 weeks ago. He was like, had it not been for Parachute, I wouldn't have been able to extend my practice to these areas as well.
Yeah.
He's like, now I have all the stuff that I normally do, which he does HR and employment law. He can now do at like 50% to 75% more efficient than what he was doing previously before Parachute. Now he's able to offer another extension of his wingspan because he has that additional capacity, and his revenue reflects that.
Yep.
So I love that story, because for like a very small investment, which is Parachute monthly cost, he's seeing 8x on that on a weekly basis. So it's a no-brainer.
Well, and the thing that I've noticed, and this is why like we built our business, because I saw what was coming. I didn't know Parachute was, I didn't know, but I could see someone's going to build these things, and every lawyer, it's going to come down to the relationship you have with your A, referral partners, and B, clients.
Yeah.
Because there's not a client in the world. They know a boutique and a solo and smaller firms give a ridiculously good service because they actually care about my grandma's sick, my son's getting an award at school, all those little things that it just doesn't happen at big law. Fair enough. They don't have the time to do it. But those relationships in this tech age where AI is so noisy and everywhere, those human relationships. And so if you have time with your client, suddenly you do find out, oh, do you want to get this extra work done? Do you want to have, oh, what about this? We'll do this extra bit. It just opens up so many opportunities.
100%. I think that's going to be the future, i.e. your relationships with clients, your soft skills, your ability to spend more time with them than the lawyer next door. That's where the value is driven, right? Like if I'm going to somebody like a doctor, and a doctor knows about my life and my stresses and doesn't blame me for, not getting to the gym because he knows I've got 3 kids and I'm building a business and can help me in the periphery areas, that's a huge value add. In fact, I've started sourcing people in my life who are my age or younger, so I can grow older with them. Dentist, physio, doctor. Like it's going to be lawyer, right? So someone knows you. Yeah.
Well, and with the power of a tech army, like there used to be, it's in all the John Grisham novels, but it's also a reality. Big firm throws a heap of discovery at the small firm, the John Grisham hero takes on. I'm like, that can start to happen because with the use of AI, they can actually handle that discovery and perhaps throw it back, and they can be more nimble. That's the big thing. Even in a mid-tier with 50 people, you try and direct 50 eyeballs at once, even if you're in a room at a microphone, you still got to be engaging. Whereas if you're just a sole practitioner and you just got to make a decision that I'm going to pivot and update my website to target this demographic in this market, you can do that.
Yeah.
And with a good AI behind you. Really exciting. From here, well, because we're about to launch you inside our app for our self-employed lawyers. Did you want to briefly discuss what that deal is? And then I wanted to actually flip it. Do you have any questions for me on the Self-Employed Lawyers League?
Yeah, I would need to. So the deal that we're offering our self-employed lawyers is in short, we want to make sure that pricing is never the barrier, right? Our mission is greater than pricing. Our mission is to be, like you said, give lawyers the ability to operate in a weight class above their current expertise or their current class, punch beyond their weight, and pricing should never be the barrier. So we think we've come up with something that achieves that. In terms of questions, man, I'd love to just hear about what are the key kind of hesitations that people are experiencing. Because I think one of the best things I did was go self-employed, right? I think, but there's always, I think the longer amount of time you spend in receiving that regularity of a paycheck, the harder it is to leave because you naturally expand your limits. What are the key kind of challenges or at least hesitations? What are you seeing from the market with people wanting to leave and start their own practice? And how do you think a platform like Parachute would help them alleviate some of those concerns?
For me, the big one, every lawyer, I think I've met 1,500 now, and they're all senior lawyers, so they're all top of the game. And this is across Europe and Australia at this point.
Yeah.
The word I always come back to is permission, because the whole industry is so permission driven. From the moment you're in law school, you need permission from the professor, to the first year, you need permission just to write a subject line, let alone like do anything. And you're just in grade, you need permission. And along the way, you're getting that steady paycheck. So your risk appetite is atrophying.
Yeah.
And then they get to the point, some are somewhat forced, redundancy or something, then they have that financial runway you spoke about, or some just get pushed to the point of, I feel like I'm being abused here to make it. And so it's the permission, and then it's probably the imposter syndrome because of that permission thing. And so to go the full loop, the reason a tool like that's going to be so valuable is, for me, the one thing I try and instill in everyone, selling and business development isn't actually, there's a science to it. Like the reason I've been paid professionally to do it for 20 years, and including when I came into law, is because I could do it like there was a proven method to do it. And it's not actually selling or anything. It's just building relationships. And so showing lawyers how to do that and giving them the confidence that you're not an imposter, you're putting yourself out there to make an offer. And the big thing, if you've come from ex-big law, they go, yeah, but I know who my competitor is, and it's this big, scary Ashurst or Minters or blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, it is and it isn't. There's a different market you can service who don't want anything to do with that. And secondly, you now have the intelligence of mankind in your phone.
Yeah.
You can basically find the answers for any client. And that, to me, anything that's going to give them more confidence that what they're offering is on par with any big firm, with any person, is just a net positive. Because that's the only thing that stops people picking up the phone doing BD. What if they say no? What if they say this? And sort of showing them how to overcome that it's just a confidence thing.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that. Like, I think a lot of it is also a concern that I'm not good enough, right? And that's the imposter piece, right? It's like, well, I am only as good as the firm in which I am a member of. And I think that is, in some respects, part of the marketing machinery behind those firms. It's like, if you leave and go on your own, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to be hungry on the street. Like, whether it's intentional or not, it's definitely subconscious. And I think for many lawyers, they don't leave because, like, no, I'm only as good as I am because Ashurst is the brand by which I operate under, or whatever it may be. Yeah. So this firm, that firm. But I think it's not until you take that first step. And the other thing is, I think it's Hormozy. Does he talk about type 1 and type 2 decisions, where it's like, if there's a type 1 decision and you can always walk back through that door, then there's no real risk in doing it. So like type 2s that you can never walk back. But if a lawyer leaves a law firm and creates their own setup and creates a degree of autonomy, yes, there's a period of questioning whether I should have done this or not. But you can always go back to becoming an employee. You can always do that again. You haven't killed that opportunity, but you are now planting the seed and watering the opportunity of becoming your own person. Your own, building something, which is exhilarating. And all the stuff that is stressful about it, we're trying to address at least as much as we possibly can through platforms like Parachute. So you don't have to worry about doing all the formatting and all the, you won't have word processing offshore anymore if you did a big law. You have to do it all yourself. Parachute can do 90% of that for you. The advice piece, Parachute can do 80% of that for you. So velocity helps, but also then allows you to kick back and go, okay, I'm going to start making these calls, developing relationships again, reaching out to my network, or reestablishing a network. Yeah.
And there's an assumption. I think a lot of lawyers, and you tell me when you stepped out, lawyers assume a lot of what is inside their client's head before they actually ask them. And because I'm a big proponent, and because I've been paid to steal big clients between firms. I relish the challenge of, no, I love it when people tell me, no, that's a relationship that it's entrenched, like they've had that forever. And I go, if they've had that forever, they haven't assessed it in forever. So that's my opening line to the CEO. No, I've been with them 20 years. When's the last time you assessed what the bills were?
Yeah.
Good point. What? And so you get in that door and open it up. And so many times people assume, no, the clients think this. I go, no, the clients actually trust you.
Yeah.
If they've been coming to you for 5 years while you were at XYZ big law, and that's what I say, do they email you? They email the partner. Oh, they email me every time. Like, there's a difference there. They trust you. So the letterhead might change, but people aren't that loyal to brands. There is an aspect of brand loyalty, but the fact is no one goes to war behind Nike or behind Walmart. They're companies, and people know that's a transactional thing. And if you change and they trust you because you know everything about them, like you said, you grow old with your selected professionals, they will follow you for sure.
Great point. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. As I said, we can probably do a much longer one. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you? We'll obviously put the show links will be inside the app. The exclusive discount for our members will be inside the app. But if people, because we've got a lot of lawyers who do listen, want to just find out, how do they find out more about Parachute?
They can, so 3 ways. 1, go to goparachute.ai. So not .com, but goparachute.ai. Parachute.ai is too expensive a domain. I'm not going to pay $600,000 for that. And on that website, you'll see there's 2 calls to action. One is to book in a demo with us, but the other is a 2-week kind of trial where there's no credit card required or anything. Just get access to the platform. The thing is, I find that the best ROI and the best deployment occurs when there's a bit of white glove onboarding. So I would suggest booking in a demo. You'll get either myself, Ben or Bray, or others in the team where we can show you how to make sure you set up Parachute to make sure there's a success for your firm. It's not as easy as plug and play. You actually want to set it up properly. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you can send an email to partnerships@goparachute.ai if you wanted to, if you prefer that, and we can schedule time with you. And number 3, follow us or connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to check in all my DMs on a daily basis, ask any questions that you may have, and we'll make sure that we personalize the approach. So there's 3 options there.
So this will be chopped in somewhere because we realized as we kept chatting off the record, there's something very cool about Parachute. And so I'm going to ask this, Ryan. You've got a law firm yourself. Clients are obviously putting everything into ChatGPT, Claude. They're using things before they come to their lawyers. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. At least they come a bit more educated, sometimes wayward, but clients are going to use this stuff. Now, has Parachute got a function, or is there something that's going to make it easier for law firms if a client wants to use an AI?
Yeah, so, we were talking about offline, and I completely forgot to mention this because this was the original thesis for Parachute, which is, as you said, clients are going to use ChatGPT stuff off the shelf. They're doing that, but then copy and pasting that into an email, sending it to their lawyers and saying, hey, lawyer, I've reviewed this contract through ChatGPT, or here's my contract, here's my comments to ChatGPT. Hopefully that makes it easy for you. Can you give me a shaved price because ChatGPT's done all the work? The challenge there is, as a principal, when I receive those things, is that, wait, I can't trust ChatGPT. I don't know what prompt you put in. I can't trust the output. I need to review this whole contract in any event, or I run it through Parachute. So what do we do with Parachute? I'll use ZLaw as an example. ZLaw uses Parachute for its own internal purposes, but then we can extend a version of Parachute, a light version, to our own clients. Not every client wants it. Not every law firm will want to do this. But what enables us to do is extend a version to our clients. The clients, let's say it's a business, a healthcare company, or a pharmacy, they can use Parachute to their heart's content. It reviews documents, drafts documents, gives them advice. Any occasion in which that client considers this piece of output needs human input or needs a lawyer to verify, because they're going to make a decision on this point, there's a single button. You click a button that says get expert advice. That then loops in ZLaw or the law firm that's extended that version to their client. Then I can see on my back end a verification request has come through from the client, better than email, because it shows me their entire prompt, their chat chain, the document. I can edit the document, and then I can also upload my own material. So now I've got access to the whole chat pane. They've invited a lawyer into the loop, hence the Parachute motif. I'm dropping in safely. I then verify, and I go, hey, Jason or Lofty, all good to go. You can execute on that. And that means the client has materially saved time. There's no context loss. Now, the question that law firms face is, wait a second, haven't I just shaved my margins? This is what ZLaw's done. We offer a version of that thing to our clients, and we say, hey, client, if you want to use us on a recurring basis, accept a recurring revenue type model with us, basically a retainer. So we offer our clients between $1,500 a month and $15,000 a month, depending on the scope of work and the amount of, touch points they expect of us over that course of the month, and it's ongoing. That client gets free access to Parachute. ZLaw pays Parachute as a customer a certain fee for that client extension, but now I've developed the MRR, or monthly recurring revenue strategy. So from about 11 clients that ZLaw has with Parachute, ZLaw is generating around 60 grand or so. It fluctuates 60 to 70 grand a month, and that's recurring revenue, and that's helpful. And so that's something that not every law firm is ready to do. but clients will be more ready than law firms will to have a demand of their law firm saying, hey, like, do you offer something that I can use that you can verify in the back end? And that means that someone that's on Parachute go, actually, yes, I do. So you're future-proofing yourself, right? And we found that the law firms that are embracing this are certainly ahead of the pack.
Oh, and that, to me, that's a huge feature. Because you can either, and it's going to open up the market. When people go, it's going to cut into my margins, I go, no. 70% of the Australian market commercially thinks they can't afford lawyers at the moment. You can meet, that's a huge market share. It's untapped, and they do just get free advice and figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
That is an entire ecosystem in a safe way. And for me, like and I still consider some days I kind of wish I was practicing again, keep my certificate up, but I was always going to go the retainer model. And you go, it answers the question of concern about where will my salary come from? That's every lawyer when they start's concerned. So this ties in perfectly with how I'm teaching lawyers to go, if you have a few retained clients, one, you've got an excuse to reach out and go, what's going on this month? Let alone that little bonus feature of, hey, we've got a purpose-built AI that you can play with, and as soon as it gets beyond your scope, you just hit the button and I'll be there.
And it says the law firm brand, right? Like it actually says, this has been offered to you by, and you got your logo there. There's a personalization piece. The client's like, oh, this is amazing. This law firm's so forward thinking, and it creates a stickiness that is completely at odds of this transactional approach, where it's like, what law firm can just do the cheapest work for me if that client is jumping around for pricing? But it means like, oh, okay, cool. I can have an ongoing relationship. I'm running a beauty salon, and I only want to pay $500 or $1,000 a month to a law firm. That can be the law firm that does that offers that extension. And that means you maintain that relationship going forward. You can always fluctuate pricing. You can always add pricing, which is on top of that. So we've created different ways to cut that cake to enable law firms to, come at it differently commercially from the perspective of pricing. So it's super innovative. I don't know any other platform that's doing this globally, and there's hundreds of legal tech software providers out there. There's even a mechanism whereby some of our users, so law firms, have a mechanism whereby when you click verify, Parachute has created an algorithm to determine and estimate the fees on the basis of an algorithm against complexity, length, and the hourly rate of that law firm.
That the firm set.
Yeah. So if you want to create like pricing first, and the client pays $600 or whatever, $1,000, whatever is on top of it, payment's already been made. It goes back to that one law firm. It's not a marketplace. It's not going back to a bunch of law firms. It's going to make that one firm that extends it to that client. So there's different ways. I mean, in the end, everyone has different commercial realities. We want to make sure we can bend to all of them.
Yep. No, that was definitely well worth adding in. So this will be somewhere in the podcast. It'll seem disjointed, but it'll be in there.
Yeah, great. Awesome.
Well, thank you for getting on board. Thanks for letting me pick your brain and ask questions about it. Excited to have you as part of the League Loot program.
Thanks, Jason. It's been great to chat, and I mate, a lot of respect for what you're doing for the legal community.
Thank you.
Again, mate.